What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So, despite the fact that Jaylen Brown is considered one of the best players in the NBA, I would say at least a top 15 player in the league. Despite the fact he was Finals MVP, for some reason which cannot be explained, he did not make the cut for Team USA in this year's Olympics. It really makes no sense whatsoever. Instead, they chose Derek White, his teammate, who is a good player, but an Olympic level player, especially when you have better options, that's never been done before. No, it's never been done before. And I do believe politics is playing a factor in a lot of these different things, which it shouldn't, but it does. And a lot of people have called it out, saying that Jaylen Brown was excluded for various reasons. I'll get into that in a moment. Jaylen Brown has been adamant that he believes that Nike has something to do with this. All right. Now, of course, Nike is the most dominant shoe brand in basketball. Of course, Nike has had an affiliation with Jordan, the Jordan brand for many, many years before the Jordan brand became independent. But Nike has definitely had an influence in the NBA, dominant influence in the NBA for about 40 years or so. Jaylen Brown is not affiliated with Nike. So Jaylen Brown has said that plays a role. Now, I believe there's some other things in play, too, that aren't being talked about. I believe another reason why Jaylen Brown is not on this team is because he got on the bad side of some people who are very powerful in the NBA. You may recall, Jaylen Brown was a staunch defender, one of the few players that had the balls to come out and be supportive of Kyrie Irving. That has come back to haunt him. It shouldn't, but it has. I also believe that Jaylen Brown's support, although he's never been like too vocal about it, but if you do your research, Jaylen Brown has been very supportive of Palestine. Even being seen in public with a Support Palestine bracelet. Now, all you gotta do is look at who are the power players and movers and makers in the NBA, have a little common sense, and you'll see why that plays a factor, but that won't be talked about. That's just our little secret here. But anyway, Grant Hill, who has, for the most part, been a stand-up guy, a tremendous basketball player who, although he's in the Hall of Fame, he was robbed of much of his prime. I mean, this guy should be. I think if he was able to have the health of a normal basketball player, I think he would probably be at least a top 30, 35 player of all time. But still, you have to admire the way he was able to come back from adversity. He damn near died of a staph infection. The infection got so bad he almost lost his foot. And the way he was able to come back and keep coming back. Well, a normal man would have just retired and gave up. But he finally came back to the point where he was relatively healthy, although he was robbed of his athletic abilities, but he still was an effective role player for almost a decade before he finally called it quits. I think it was around 2013 or so. But anyway, Grant Hill just did himself a disservice by being a complete company man for the NBA. So he tried to dispute what Jaylen Brown said about him believing Nike had something to do with it. He said, quote, I don't know if that was before or after things went out on Twitter, but yeah, I think this idea that there's a conspiracy theory, I always love a good conspiracy theory, but it was really truly a basketball decision. And these are tough decisions. But having gone through this with the FIBA competition, you want to find the right balance and the right pieces on the court that we needed. Let me tell you something. That's bullshit. Team USA gets the best players. Okay? Yeah, you can argue that sometimes they have left certain players off or some players that got cut, for whatever reason. Like I believe Charles Barkley didn't make the cut for the 84 team. Okay? Fine. But that was Charles Barkley and Auburn. You don't cut 92 and 96 Charles. Okay? You don't. We can argue up and down Isaiah Thomas not being on that 92 team. That was politics. And it was wrong. We can blame Isaiah Thomas for a little bit of that. Now, I'm not comparing Jaylen Brown to Isaiah Thomas, but it's something of the same measure. You know what I mean? But with Isaiah Thomas, it wasn't necessarily his beliefs. It was that people didn't like him. But he belonged on that team. Jaylen Brown belongs on this team. He belongs on this team. Derek White doesn't belong on this team. You get the best players. Now, we can look in history and see players that, in hindsight, you question whether they should wear Olympic material, but there wasn't a better alternative. Like, some people might say, well, I was a Mecca Okafor on one of these teams. Well, in hindsight, that seems like a good question, but at the time, he was a high prospect, and he didn't have a better option. Remember, at one point, there wasn't a lot of good centers in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? There were a lot of good big men. And even with that, you know what I'm saying? Politics played a role, but I don't want to get into that. It doesn't belong with the dream team, man. You're supposed to have the best players. And one of these years, I don't know if it's going to be this year, but one of these years, it's going to catch up with Team USA. And they're going to lose. Why? Because they don't have the best players out there. They only got players because Nike approves of this, or certain people in the hierarchy in the NBA want to punish a guy because they don't agree with his political views. So it's funny. John Stockton can have all the views and opinions he wants to. But Jaylen Brown needs to shut up and play ball. That's how it works in this country, apparently. But yeah, Grant Hill is out of line with this one, man. And Jaylen Brown, I almost forgot to say this. Jaylen Brown responded to what Grant Hill said. He said, Grant Hill calling me a conspiracy theorist is disappointing. I've been a vice president since I was 21 years old. I have a great understanding. See, a guy like Jaylen Brown isn't what they want to promote either. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to promote someone like Jaylen Brown. It's funny, Jaylen Brown doesn't have a criminal record. He doesn't get in trouble. But you're going to see more bad press about Jaylen Brown than you will, say, Ja Morant. And that's not to pick on him, but Ja Morant is what they feel more comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? They feel more comfortable with Ja Morant. Jaylen Brown is a threat to them. Ja Morant's not. The things that Jaylen Brown represents is a threat to the old guard power structure. Ja Morant isn't. Because they know that people like Ja Morant only going to aim his vitriol toward certain people. You know what I'm saying? That look like him. Jaylen Brown got smoked for others who don't look like him. And I don't mean on no physical violence. I mean just calling out stuff for what it is. They don't like that. And I'm going to say this about Jaylen Brown too. I'm getting tired of this. I'm tired of dancing around this because I feel like this is just seething with this issue. I don't want to blatantly accuse everybody of this, but I look at what's going on with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and how everybody just seems so determined to make Tatum the best player on this team, when I think there are many times when Jaylen Brown is the best player on this team, especially in the postseason, especially down a stretch of games. But the way that the media just seems so hell-bent on separating the two of them, whereas with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, up until the end, you still saw a lot of people call them the Splash Brothers, and you never really saw a lot of people definitively say Steph was the best player on that team, even though clearly he was and has been since 2016. Sometimes I want to say what's happening to Jaylen Brown just smacks of colorism. You know what I'm saying? It has that smell. Not necessarily racism, colorism. I definitely think that plays a factor in this. And that's pathetic. Because that goes beyond just race. That means I'm accusing some people that look like me of doing that. Yes, I am. And that's pathetic. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it.